This is Sunrise live in Washington as the Trump backlash begins. Thousands protest in cities across the United States with marches through the streets and objects set on fire.
Donald Trump, go away! Racist, sexist, anti-gay! Donald Trump!
The majority of the demonstrations have been peaceful, but reveal just how this is a divided nation.
You had your Brexit in June because you voted to leave Europe. Yesterday we had our Brexit, except America voted to leave America.
The president will welcome the president-elect as the transition of power in America begins. But will he build that wall? We report from the Mexican border on one of his most controversial promises.
Also this morning, tram tragedy. Police investigate if it was going too fast when it derailed, killing 7 people. And police capture a prisoner who's been on the run from Pentonville since Monday.
This is Sunrise live in Washington as Donald Trump heads to the White House. He'll meet President Obama later on today as the transition of power begins. And they must immediately work on bringing together a divided nation as protests against Donald Trump take place in cities across the United States. This is the scene live in Oakland this morning here in America. Oakland, California. It's been replicated across America with fires started and some scuffles as well. Our US correspondent Greg Milam reports.
Donald Trump is next door! Hey, hey! Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Donald Trump, go away!
The protests over Trump's election are spreading.
We reject the president-elect! Donald Trump, go away! Sexist, anti-gay!
Donald Trump's ability to mobilize perhaps Latin racist thoughts is incredibly terrifying.
I won't let him create a mockery of minorities.
We're not going to stand for the racism. We're not going to stand for the xenophobia. We're not going to stand for the misogyny. We're not going to stand for the homophobia.
The country is in shock, and today's meeting represents an extraordinary moment in American history.
You had your Brexit in June because you voted to leave Europe. Yesterday we had our Brexit, except America voted to leave America. That's the election of this guy is leaving behind everything this country's supposed to stand for. We've never lived up to who we should be. But under him, it'll never happen.
In 70 days, there'll be new occupants of the White House, and Donald and Melania Trump will get their first look around today. The Republican president-elect has promised to be a unifying figure when he takes office. The first test of those skills will come with the man he'll succeed. There was no love lost between the two during the campaign.
They even want to try and rig the election at the polling booths where so many cities are corrupt, and you see that.
I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
And at the White House Correspondents' Dinner 5 years ago, Trump was the butt of Obama's comedy routine.
No one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? He certainly would bring some change to the White House. Let's see what we've got up there.
The tycoon didn't enjoy the presidential mockery. Obama has promised his administration will work with Trump to ensure a peaceful transition of power in the Oval Office. But Trump built his campaign on the promise of unpicking the Obama legacy.
Real change begins with immediately repealing and replacing Obamacare, a disaster.
The last time Trump was on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, it was to open his new hotel at number 1100. It is at number 1600 that Donald Trump will become the most powerful man in the world. Greg Milam, Sky News, New York.
Well, those protests against Donald Trump have been going on for the last 2 nights now. In New York City, several thousand protesters marched on Trump Tower with placards and signs expressing anger at the election results. Well, dozens have also gathered outside the White House, lighting candles and holding up anti-Trump signs. Thousands taking to the streets in downtown Chicago as well. Many there trying to congregate outside the Trump International Hotel before being moved on by authorities. Large crowd out in Dallas as well last night, largely peaceful demonstrations there. And demonstrators marching for a second night in Oakland, California, with cries of "Not my president." Fires started there as well, and a number of arrests made. And finally, pictures from Seattle. Similar scenes, hundreds protesting there. And I'm joined now by Priscilla Alvarez, assistant editor at The Atlantic. And Priscilla, just looking at those scenes there, does that really sum up the mood of the nation, do you think, or is that just a small pocket?
I would say that sums up the mood of the nation. And we knew this coming into Election Day. We knew that it was likely to happen afterwards, whatever the outcome, Trump or Clinton. And we will see the culmination of this in the coming days, really, until Inauguration Day and perhaps beyond that.
The messages coming from the current president, President Obama, and from Hillary Clinton in her speech yesterday was, you've got to work with what you've got to work with. We need to keep an open mind. We need to give him a chance. How much do you think that message is going to filter through here to Washington as Trump arrives later today to start that transition of power? Will people want to work with him?
Well, remember, he has that to his advantage. The Congress is going to be Republican-led. So to that end, Republicans in the House and Senate are happy with the outcome, that they have a Republican presidential candidate, well, president. And so that, I think, is going to, the relationship to look out for, actually, really, is the House Speaker Paul Ryan. House Speaker Paul Ryan and Donald Trump had a fractious relationship. He distanced himself from the candidate many times throughout the election. So seeing how that takes hold now that Trump is the president will certainly be interesting to watch out for.
Yeah, Paul Ryan's speech was interesting, wasn't it? He welcomed Donald Trump, but you get the feeling that he's not going to be a pushover. And something that fascinates me is how quickly Donald Trump gets his hand on classified information. In the next few days, he will be privy to exactly the same security briefings as President Obama. He will know about all the secret missions, or, you know, whether they're spying on other nations. He will be able to see all of that pretty much from the get-go.
He's the president now, so he will certainly look at all that information, all the briefings, and I think that's part of the message that Obama is sending as well, is that he wants to help him in that transition, or help the team at least in that transition. And there will be a lot that Trump will digest on his own that we do not know as the public, and this is a new responsibility that he'll have to take on, and to that end he'll have to, you know, create that cabinet for his administration as well, whatever that may be.
Because he has to sort of employ around, did you say 4,000 people to help him run the country?
And many of them will have to go through Congress for confirmation. So it's going to be a long process.
So all of that before January the 20th and his inauguration. Okay, Priscilla, thank you for the moment. We'll talk to you a bit later on in the programme. So let's